Hi, I'm Don Bodan from SampleLibraryReview.com, and I'm very excited today. We're going to be checking out Jaeger Essential Modern Orchestra from Audio Imperia. Jaeger is Audio Imperia's first dive into an orchestral instrument for Contact, and we've been very excited and eagerly awaiting this release for about 3 or 4 months since they started releasing teasers, audio demos, as well as some of the walkthrough videos. Jaeger downloads is about 24 gigabytes. That's 48 some gigabytes of waves that come along with the library. It includes strings, brass, percussion, vocals, as well as hits and effects. It comes with 5 stereo mic positions, spot, tree, wide, far, as well as the full mix. You've also got true legatos for violin, the cello, the trumpets, and the horns, and there's multiple vocal legato patches for the vocal instruments. The library normally sells as $599. At the time of putting together this video here, it was on a special intro price. I'll be sure to include a link to take you straight over to Jaeger Essential Modern Orchestra in the description below. So before we jump into this video and go through everything Jaeger has to offer, the first thing I want to do is play through a little mock-up of a track I'm creating just using Jaeger, and I'll play through just some of the sections of it so you can hear what it sounds like just using only Jaeger to kind of mock this up. I only took a couple hours, but I think it kind of showcases some of the library. It didn't use a lot of reverb, so it's not real vast and huge. I just wanted to use these sample sets right out of the gate so that we could all have a chance to hear what they sound like. So that's pretty much just Jaeger all through, and I'll play a couple snippets. Here's just a little snippet of the strings section. Now I'll play just a little the brass. I don't think I utilize the brass nearly as much as I will in the future, because there's some really great sounding things, as you'll hear when we do the play. So you just start to get a taste of the brass, I guess, with that piece there. And of course, you heard the cymbals and some effects and whatnot. We'll dig all into that next when we do a deep dive into a first look of all the sounds, some articulations, a little bit of the functionality of what Jaeger has to offer. Hello, I got Jaeger loaded up several instances of it, and I'm pretty excited to check it out. I have written and played with it a little bit just to get an idea of what some of the instruments sound like. I'll do a brief overview of what's included here. It comes with what they call hangers. Now, these are basically categorizations for the library. You've got hanger 1, which is a strings library, violins, violas, cellos, and bass. So of note there is that there is no violin 2. And you've got hanger 2. This is the brass. This is trumpets, horns, tubas, and the tuss, which trombones and tubas. I'm sorry. And then moving on, we got the percussion, direct from disc and not direct from disc. Pretty nice little selection. A gran casa, a cymbal, snare drum high and low, stick ensemble, taiko solos, low, mid, and high, tom-tom, a tom ensemble high, tom ensemble low. And then we've also got the exciting hanger 4, which is the vocals by Meredith Stoltvent, and I hope that's how you pronounce her name. Wonderful singer who, even if you don't think you know who she is, I have some news for you. Here is her credits. You probably have heard a lot of this Two Steps from Hell stuff that she's performed on. So just some really wonderful singing, and we'll take a listen to that a little deeper in a moment. Then we've got the hanger 5. This is a sound design instrument. So we've got mech hits, and yes, these are extending the Transformer style kind of sound effects hits. Mech Brahms, then mixes, regular Brahms, drones with tonal mapping, and hits. So that's just an overview of what those libraries, what the library comes with. I have not read every inch of the manual. I'm not an expert. Please refer to the official walkthrough videos for details. This is a first look video, which means that this is my first time looking through the library to kind of check it out and share it with you. I've been anticipating this library for a while. I've been a big fan of what Audio Imperia is doing, especially for composers composing for trailers and epic sounding sound design work. If this is their first big leap into orchestra libraries, and it's called Jaeger because the German word means hunter. So let's take a look and see what we can learn from the manual. They had 2 goals: incredible sounding and user-friendly interface. Added more to the library than we'd expect. The orchestra section is complete by percussion mixes, extensive sound design section, and the vocals of Meredith Stoltvent. And again, I really hope that I learned to pronounce her name properly here. All of these interface all the patches have the same interface, which has got some nice advantages to it. It seems like they've tried to streamline and rethink the interface, and in some ways, I'm really thrilled with what they did. You've got your articulations here at the bottom, which you trigger with these keys. You've got some effects here, which you can trigger with even lower keys. And then you've got your effect sends. So this is if you wanted to run compression, reverb, delay, phasers, and whatnot. Back on the main interface, you'll see we've got 5 mic positions, a standard, and then spot, deca, wide, and far. So I'm going to go ahead and just play through, and we'll get a little bit of sense of the sound of some of the instruments in the library very quickly. I'm going to mute my mic and play through a few different samples. Here's the violins. So kind of looking over the instrument, it's got it's got all the basic articulations that I would think of. There's no trills, however, so that's something that kind of want to keep in mind. And the other thing I do want to mention, playing through the library earlier today, is that the articulations are consistent across the instruments, with the exception of no legato in the KB, the double bass. The other thing I do want to mention here is you've got the ability to move your key switches. You can see they change really easy. That's great. However, the key switches are not uniform when you load up. So if you're like me and you love to not ever think about a library's key switches, then this is something you'll need to consider, because as we've got, for instance, let's listen to a little bit of the cello patch. you can see that cello patch, that legato is on C0, and here, because of course of the range, C-1 for the bass is this first sustain. So again, the key switches load up because of range of instrument in different places. Not a huge downfall, but just something to keep in mind as you start to play with it. Let's listen to some of these positions and load up the main positions. And it looks like we've got the ability to mute and solo each one. So I'll play through these so you could hear the difference, and then I'll jump back to the main mixes. So right out the gate, I have to say I'm a really big fan of this main mix sound. I do love that we have the ability to go in and kind of craft our own sound, but to get up and running, I'm probably going to stick with this main sound. I'm going to do a little tour of the articulations of the cello instrument here now for us. I really like the sound of this. It's got a very lively sound to it. To my ears, I hear a lot of that air and bow and room sound, all with a lot of stereo detail, which I think is one of the things that really helps bring an instrument to life. So let's go ahead and check out a little bit of the viola instrument. Here we go. I'll just play through some of these, and you'll notice again there's no viola legato, which is one of the critiques I said about inconsistent across the library. I do think I'm going to use my legato for my violin and my cello a whole lot more than my viola, but it's important to keep in mind that that is one of the limitations. So let's take a listen. Now, one thing I really do like about what they've achieved here, and I believe we're going to have to look up in the manual here, is they've got some of that imperfection, human nature captured. You can hear on that staccato, especially right here in the violas, you can hear the pressure on the bow actually detuning that sound. And I think there's a lot to do with the way they've done sample starts, where they've left that pre-attack, whereas so many developers cut that, and for good reason, because if you do any kind of quantization, then your samples sound right. With a library like this, we're going to have to look into the manual and find out a little bit more about the detail, but sample start, everything I've been working on thus far with my little mock-up, it's had the instruments that I've had to play around with my sample start here, and then I've also had quite a bit of offset. Let's see if I could bring up a mixer window here. So you could see if I'm not making myself clear. Here we go. Okay. So when we look, see how far ahead my attack is? And that's because I've got a little bit of that sound in our sample prior to the actual instrument's attack. And that gives it a lot more life, in my opinion. The other thing I haven't talked about here is the dynamic range and the expression and the start. And we'll take a look at those here in just a second. I think it's important to play through maybe some of the brass instruments and start to give a little feel of what the main components are of the library before we get into all the great stuff like the vocals, and there's lots of effects as mentioned. Okay, so let's pull the trumpet up here, and I'm going to so I've got the trumpet pulled up, and you can see we've got 5 standard articulations: legato, sustain, staccatissimo, staccato, and porto. No trills, no frills. So let's take a listen through what the trumpets section sounds like. I'm going to stop right there because do you hear those breath release samples? That is a really nice additive. Bravo. Another thing I'm going to have to give big props to Audio Imperia on is these portamentos are not set in length. So many developers release portamentos that are a set fixed amount of length, which makes them very difficult to use, in my opinion. So with the way they've done this here, you actually can control your release sample just by lifting up. Still only a few seconds if you hold it all the way through, but you have the ability to shorten it, which makes it really nice. I am a big fan of the breath sample. That's a really cool addition. The horns, this is, of course, one of the main events for most sample libraries. So let's check out what they've got here. Okay, a few things I really like. I really love the buzz you get once you're pushing your dynamics. I've got my expression cranked all the way up there. I should latch and play around with it a little bit. Let's see. Where's my 11? CC 11. I got my wrong setup here. Here we go. CC 11, right there. There we go. Really ballsy, brassy sound in there. I'm really digging that. Staccatos have a nice distinction, and again, those portos strips are nice. A little limited, but still very nice. Moving on, let's check out the trombones. I have to say I was really pleased, with the brassiness of these trombones while I was working up my little demo piece of music to learn a little bit more about the library. And no legato, limited to only sustained, staccato, and staccatissimo. So I'll mute the mic and play through some of these. So nice, clean samples. I like that stereo spread in that brass buzziness. But limited again. Now, I'm going to stop here. Double check. This one says tuss. I'm assuming it's a tuba. 2 tubas. But I'm going to the manual, check out the manual, see exactly what the manual says. And it doesn't. Okay, probably have to go to the main website and check that out. I know I had it up here. Let's see. Here we go. Details. Two tubas, correct. So they abbreviated tubas as TUS. That clears up the confusion for me. And let's move along and listen to these tubas: sustained, staccatos, and staccatissimos. Yeah, nice sound overall, I believe. And the difference between the staccatissimo and staccato. I think that gets us a nice feel for it. All right, let's check out these vocals, because I think we've all have been eager to see what this was all about. They've sampled legato versions of ahs, ohs, and humming. So let's go ahead and start with, there we go, get my fader on the proper place. And there's no mixer positions, so there's just the one mixer, the one vocal part. And I'm going to turn off any sends. So this is right out of the box. Got a nice release sample there. And those legatos sound really nice. And for having baked in vibrato, I feel like it's a nice amount because you play for a little bit. And you don't hear that vibrato right up front. It takes a couple minutes before it kicks in. And I think that is a nice compromise between having no vibrato and having some synthetic vibrato control of some kind. Yeah, that's nice. And then if we did sustains, O's or ahs as chords. A lot of vibrato. Yeah, that vibrato really becomes obvious with the sustain. And let's listen to those sustain O's. And let's hear those hums. So it's very playable. Again, that vibrato gets a little bit thick, I think, in my humble opinion, in those sustains. But I do like it. I think it's really nice. Now let's move on to some of the percussion and effects. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. Let me find the empty track that I can just scroll through. Loading up. Come on. Okay. First, let's dig into percussion. I'll just play these so you can hear them. There's only a couple samples per instrument, as you can see. Really nice, effective. And then up at the top, we've got some rolls. Or some roll-ins, I guess. And this purple note, this is a roll that we can control with both dynamics and expression. Okay, now one thing I didn't look up, but I'm pretty sure this dynamic range slider is going to give us more of this dynamic range. We got some cymbals here with the patty. And I think I would have liked to have had a cymbal roll instrument just like the other one there. And down at the bottom, I'm pretty sure we have some effects. Yeah. So you could control your step effects just like Audio Imperia's other instruments. Yeah. You get the picture. Snare ensemble. And here he is, our purple guy. A lot of sizzle. Really nice snare. And let's hear the low snare. Yeah, a lot of crispness in that. Really nice tone. I like how Audio Imperia does this often. They'll do 2 octaves, left and right. So even though that is it, that's all this instrument has to offer. Just the sticks. The taikos. And the longer purple controllable roll. That's nice. That's real nice. That's the high taiko. So here's the low taikos. And again, we got that roll. Mid taikos. I wanted to start with the roll there. Tom-tom. Then we got some performed rolls, which are really nice. Lots of bite and sizzle, just like you'd expect from Trailer Tools developer. And the last one, the purple roll. Combining that with the hit works really nicely. Tom ensembles. I'm really excited about this. I'm a huge fan of Audio Imperia's Decimator drums, which is just toms and kick and a snare, and I use that thing all the time. All right, this is the first time that I'm thinking to myself that I would like a different kind of curve for my playback, because I feel like it's either barely hitting or hitting really hard. Yeah, and I get a little more ease of playback from that. That's odd. Fixed curve. That's really interesting. I don't know if I've seen that set up. And then, of course, purple key for rolls. That was the high tom ensemble. Listens to the low tom ensemble, which will probably be one of my favorites. Let's see, because I love low toms. Yeah. Very human with some of the tom rolls. That's going to be my takeaway comment for you guys. All right, moving on to the sound design instruments. This is really cool. We've got a whole collection of additional sound design instruments, hits, Brahms, mech hits. This I'm only going to play through a handful just because there's so many additional sounds. I just want to give you a taste, because I played through almost all of them yesterday, and I should have just recorded it then. Now, my only critique on these is that, yes, it's nice to have another collection of Transformer-ish like hits. However, I feel like the majority of them say too much. Most of the time, I need a hit that doesn't keep on going and having tone and texture, and I would love to be able to add my own tone and texture. Hear that little scrape at the end, although it's great, adds character. I just probably wouldn't be able to use that unless it was a one very specific project or picture. So what is nice about this library is you're able to just drag your start point here. So that's a pretty cool sound, just being able to do that. It is universal, however. Oh, global right here. You can turn it off. See how that guy continues to say a lot? I would just like that hit by itself. That would have been really nice to have. And I could be wrong, but our hits down here, I feel like they do the same thing. Let's move on to the sound effects. Okay, let's listen to some of these Brahms. This is what they call the full Brahm mixes. You see, it continues to keep saying things after the Brahm, which, for me personally, that says too much at times. Now, I mentioned the Audio Imperia effects step mod that you have here, which is these keys. And this can add a lot to something like this. You just get a little pulse kind of thing out of it. And these are the Brahms only. Yeah, these are really nice. These are the mech Brahms only. And then we got a whole suite of Jaeger Brahms. That's got a little whoosh to him. And oh, what is he doing? He's got a lot of silence up to that point. Let's get him right up here. If you're not familiar, Audio Imperia also has the big knob here for all of their instruments. So for instance, right now, the big knob's set to lo-fi. So just using my mod wheel, I will gradually bring that in, which is kind of cool. Let's just play through a handful of the drones, and then they've got a tone-mapped drone selection. And you could additionally use those built-in effects to really do a lot with these. For some reason, they're not triggering. Let's see. Ah, it's not turned on. Looks like these aren't set up the same way as the others. They're looks like they're ready, but they don't have the actual programming done. So that's something to make note of. Go ahead and listen to a few of the hits. Yeah, that's nice. That's really nice. That is, yeah, I have to say, just first look, just a few hours into checking out Jaeger, I love the sound of the strings, and the brass has some really nice stuff in it. These additional percussion instruments are really nice. I think I will get some use out of those, definitely. A lot of bite and low end, very hyped sound, but very natural and organic sounding at the same time. Sound design instruments leans a little bit, as Jaeger is intended to, that kind of transformer sound for me. However, I think I will get a lot out of those Brahms and those hits. Only thing I could say right now is I would love to have a reverse button right here to turn my hit into a riser instantly, especially with Audio Imperia's effects step mods. These keys up here, you can do all kinds of really neat gating and panning with a riser or hit. And these hits, I may have to go in and create a whole new instrument, just reverse every single sample. So I'd have my own Jaeger risers. These vocals, they're just really lovely, and I think that I will get a lot of use out of them. Really beautiful character and style captured with her voice there. And even though I did have some critique about the amount of vibrato for the sustain samples, I think those legato samples for solo legato passages are going to be extremely useful, as with just the couple hours that I mocked up that piece I played at the beginning, I can see that this is going to be an outstanding set of samples for trailer-like tracks, epic tracks, and so on. Thanks for spending a little time with me here today. I love your support. Please like, share, and subscribe. And be sure to head over to samplelibraryreview.com for the latest news, reviews, and a weekly deals page.